The woman at the front desk smiled politely as I slid Robert's reservation across the counter. "Name?" she asked. "Michelle Canning. Anniversary trip. My husband booked the honeymoon suite." She typed, then hesitated, her brow furrowed. Yes. Mr. Canning already checked in, with his wife." I blinked. "Excuse me?" Her eyes darted nervously to the couple walking out of the elevator behind me. I turned, and the world caved in. Robert stood there, hand at the small of another woman's back. My best friend, Sabrina. She was wearing my silk robe. The robe I'd packed for this trip. The robe he must have stolen from my closet. Gasps rippled through the lobby. Guests turned, whispering. Robert froze when he saw me, but Sabrina didn't flinch. She smirked, lifted her chin, and leaned into him like she had just won a prize. I stepped forward, voice shaking but sharp enough to cut glass. "Robert, explain," he stammered, caught between shame and arrogance. "Michelle, this isn't—" Sabrina answered instead. "You weren't supposed to get here yet," she said smoothly, adjusting the robe as if flaunting it. "We thought we'd have the suite to ourselves first." Gasps. A man in a Hawaiian shirt muttered, "Damn." I felt my pulse slam in my ears. "The honeymoon suite? On our anniversary?" Robert reached out, pathetic. "Listen, please, just let me—" The slap landed before he could finish. The crack echoed, followed by another round of gasps. His cheek flared red, his eyes wide with shock. "You booked the honeymoon suite with her?" I said, my voice rising with each word. "With my best friend?" Sabrina laughed, a cruel little sound. "Maybe if you'd taken better care of him, he wouldn't have needed me." The crowd erupted with whispers. A woman near the concierge hissed, "What a snake!" "Needed you?" I spat. "Needed you to crawl into my life, eat at my table, smile at my daughter, then slip into my husband's bed like a parasite?" Sabrina's smirk faltered. Robert tried to shield her. "Stop making a scene," he muttered through clenched teeth. I squared my shoulders. "A scene? You humiliate me in front of strangers, you steal my trust, and you want silence?" I turned to the crowd, raising my voice. "You see this? 12 years of marriage, and this is how he celebrates our anniversary." Phones lifted higher. Someone whispered, "This is going viral." Robert stepped closer, desperate. "Michelle, don't do this here. Let's talk privately." I shoved him back with my bag. "You should have thought about private when you dragged her here." Sabrina crossed her arms, trying to recover her confidence. "Face it, Michelle. You've been holding him back. He deserves better." My laugh was hollow. Bitter. Better? He wouldn't have a career, a house, or a dime without me. You think he booked this suite? My inheritance paid for this fantasy. The lobby buzzed louder. Robert's face flushed crimson. He tugged Sabrina toward the exit, but she dug her heels in, unwilling to let me have the last word. I leaned forward, close enough so only she and Robert could hear. "You think you've won. But this? This is the beginning of your humiliation. Both of you." Then I straightened, raised my chin, and slid the wedding ring off my finger. I placed it flat on the counter, the sound of metal on marble sharp as a blade. "You can keep the suite," I said loudly, staring straight into Robert's eyes. "It'll be the last thing I ever give you." Gasps again. Someone clapped once, then stopped, unsure. I grabbed my suitcase, turned on my heel, and walked toward the doors. Every step echoed like a drumbeat, my rage steadying me. Behind me, Robert called my name, frantic now, his voice cracking. Sabrina hissed something under her breath, trying to hush him, but I didn't stop. I didn't turn around. When the glass doors slid open and the sun hit my face, I knew this moment would burn into memory for everyone who witnessed it. But for me, it was fuel. They thought they'd embarrassed me. They thought I would crumble. But humiliation is temporary. Revenge lasts. I gripped my suitcase tighter, fire surging through me, and made a silent vow as the ocean breeze hit my skin. They just declared war. And I will not lose. People always said Robert and I looked like the perfect Newport couple. He had the tailored suits, the polished smile, the charm that made him magnetic in business rooms and backyard barbecues. I had the softer role, the supportive wife who stepped back from her own career so he could shine. On the outside, we looked unshakable. But perfection was just a costume we both wore until it strangled me. When we married at 24, I was the one with stability. My family wasn't wealthy, but my grandmother had left me an inheritance, a nest egg that was supposed to be for my future security. I invested it all in Robert's real estate ambitions, trusting his vision, trusting him. He promised to double it, triple it. And for a while, it seemed like he did. The house, the cars, the vacations. It all came from money I put on the line. He never liked to acknowledge that. He liked to pretend he had built it all himself. I told myself I didn't mind. I wanted a family, not a scoreboard. And when our daughter Sophie was born, I felt the sacrifices were worth it. Late nights rocking her to sleep while Robert stayed out networking, giving up event planning, the career I loved, so Sophie could have stability and he could chase deals. I thought I was protecting us. The cracks showed early. A lipstick stain on his shirt from a client dinner. A hotel charge in Las Vegas on a weekend he was at a conference. I confronted him once, and he laughed it off, told me I was imagining things, that I was insecure. And I believed him. Or maybe I wanted to believe him, because admitting the truth meant my whole life was a lie. Sabrina, my supposed best friend, was woven into our family from the start. She babysat Sophie, joined our holidays, toasted us at our anniversaries. I shared everything with her, every doubt, every frustration about Robert's absences. She was the one telling me, "Don't overthink it, Michelle. He loves you." Looking back, that should have been my first alarm. What friend needs to defend your husband more than you do? Still, I swallowed the doubts. Newport Beach was full of women whispering about their husbands' affairs. But I told myself Robert was different. He was mine. We'd built too much together, but Sophie isn't blind. Kids never are. One afternoon, a few weeks before the vacation, she sat at the kitchen counter doing homework, and she said something that gutted me. "Mom, why does Daddy call Aunt Sabrina his getaway?" I froze, my hands tight on the dish towel. "What did you hear, honey?" She shrugged, twirling her pencil. "He was on the phone. He said, 'Don't worry, our getaway is all set. Michelle won't know.'" Then he laughed. Her voice was innocent, but the knife it drove into me was anything but. I hugged her, too tightly, pretending it was nothing. I told her adults sometimes joke about things that don't make sense. But inside, the floor collapsed beneath me. That was the confirmation I couldn't dodge. Not a rumor, not a suspicion, not an excuse Robert could smooth over with charm. My daughter heard it with her own ears. I remember going upstairs, locking myself in the bathroom, and staring at my reflection until I didn't recognize the woman looking back. My face was pale, my eyes hollow, my mouth trembling. I whispered to myself, "It can't be. It can't be Sabrina." But it was. I replayed every night he was late. Every time Sabrina insisted I should treat myself while she offered to pick Sophie up from school. Every glance between them I had dismissed as paranoia. I had handed both of them the keys to my life, Robert with the finances, Sabrina with my trust, and they had driven me straight into the fire. I should have ended it right then, should have confronted him, confronted her. But part of me wanted proof so undeniable that even Robert couldn't twist it, so damning that Sabrina couldn't smirk her way out of it. That proof came at the resort lobby when the clerk said, "Mr. Canning already checked in with his wife." By then, though, Sophie had already given me the truth. She was the one who saw through the cracks when I refused to. And I promised myself I would never let her see me broken, never let her think betrayal was something a woman had to silently endure. I had played the role of the forgiving wife for too long. Now it was time to play the role of something else entirely. Not victim, not background, not support. It was time to be the storm. When I left that hotel lobby, dragging my suitcase through a swarm of staring faces. I felt like my entire body was vibrating. At first, it was rage, then humiliation. But once the adrenaline settled, what remained was sharper, cold, precise. I had two choices: collapse or calculate. And collapsing was exactly what Robert and Sabrina wanted, to see me broken, sobbing, begging for answers. I wasn't giving them that. The first step was practical. Money. Robert thought he was clever, but every joint account was seeded with my inheritance. Without me, he was just another smooth-talking real estate agent with a smile and debt. He'd always hated when I reminded him of that, which is why I stopped mentioning it years ago. But the truth was power, and I was ready to use it. At the airport, I opened my laptop and logged into our accounts. One by one, I transferred balances into an account in my name only, the one he never knew existed. When the confirmation screen flashed, I actually laughed. Not a happy laugh, a sharp one, like a blade leaving its sheath. Next, I froze the credit cards. He'd find out soon enough when the waiter brought the check and his card was declined. I almost wished I could see his face in that exact moment. Almost. When I landed back in Newport, I went straight to the house. Sophie was staying with my sister for the weekend. Thank God. So I had space to move quickly. I pulled out garbage bags, not for trash but for everything of Robert's I could stuff inside. Suits, golf clubs, those ridiculous leather loafers he thought made him look European. I wanted the house scrubbed of his presence before he even realized I was back. By the time the first 3 closets were gutted, my phone buzzed. Robert. I ignored it. A minute later, Sabrina's name lit up the screen. I ignored that too. Instead, I called someone else. A lawyer. A woman named Helena who'd been recommended to me years ago by a friend who went through a nasty divorce. I'd saved her number, just in case, though I never believed I'd use it. She picked up on the second ring. Helena Ortiz. "It's Michelle Canning," I said, my voice steady even though my hand trembled. "I need to file for divorce, immediately, and I need it to be ruthless." Her silence lasted a beat. Then she said, "Come in tomorrow morning. We'll make it happen." That was the moment I felt the shift. No longer the betrayed wife, no longer the woman begging for scraps of honesty. I was in control. I was setting the board, and Robert didn't even know the game had changed. I poured myself a glass of wine and opened my laptop again, this time to Zillow. Our house wasn't just where we lived, it was where we hosted barbecues, birthdays, anniversaries. It was Robert's favorite stage, his proof of success. And I would take it from him, too. I contacted a realtor I trusted and arranged a meeting. By the time Robert realized what was happening, the listing would already be live. Hours slipped by. The house looked emptier, but I felt fuller, like each decision poured steel back into my bones. The knock on the door came just past midnight. Robert's voice followed, muffled but urgent. "Michelle, open up. We need to talk." I froze for a moment, heart pounding, then forced myself to stay calm. I didn't open. His voice sharpened. "Don't act like a child. This isn't what you think." I actually smiled at that. This isn't what you think. The line cheaters rehearse like it's gospel. When I didn't respond, his knocks grew louder. "Michelle, you can't just walk out and freeze the cards. What the hell is wrong with you?" So he'd noticed. Good. That was only the beginning. I stood just behind the door, wine glass in hand, listening to his anger spill out. I pictured him realizing in real time that the money was gone, the cards were dead, the door was locked, and his wife wasn't playing the role of victim anymore. Finally, I spoke. Loud enough for him to hear, but calm, deliberate. "Go back to your mistress, Robert. Your key doesn't work anymore." The silence that followed was delicious. Then came the desperation, the cracks in his voice. "Please, just let me explain. It's not serious with her. It didn't mean anything." I laughed, actually laughed, and set my empty glass on the counter. "It meant enough for you to book the honeymoon suite." The pounding stopped. I imagined him standing there, sweating, realizing the walls were closing in. I didn't open the door. I didn't give him my tears or my face. I gave him silence, the kind that eats men alive. And when his footsteps finally retreated down the driveway, I whispered to myself, "Checkmate, Robert." And I'm just getting started. The morning after Robert pounded on the door, I woke up to silence. Not the heavy silence of dread, the clean, sharp kind that comes after a storm. For the first time in years, I didn't feel like I was bracing for his footsteps or his excuses. I made coffee, sat at the kitchen table, and opened my phone. The messages had started pouring in overnight. From Sabrina. "You're overreacting. Don't punish Robert for being human." From Robert. "Michelle, we can fix this. Just let me talk to you. Why are the accounts empty? Where did you move the money?" That one made me laugh. He thought I'd sit quietly while he drained everything dry? No, that chapter was over. By mid-morning, the fallout spread further. My realtor called. Robert had left 3 panicked voicemails demanding to know why she was conspiring with me. She told him politely to speak to my lawyer. Then my sister rang. "I saw him at Starbucks," she said. "Michelle, he was red-faced, screaming into his phone because his card got declined for a $5 coffee. People were recording him." I pictured it. Robert, Mr. Newport's success story, humiliated over a latte. My inheritance had carried him for a decade, and now he was finding out what life looked like without me as his safety net. But it wasn't just money. His mistress was cracking too. By lunchtime, I received a text from a mutual acquaintance. A screenshot of Sabrina's Instagram, her comment section flooded. Women calling her a homewrecker, men mocking Robert. Someone had even posted the hotel confrontation clip, grainy but clear enough, with the caption, "Imagine booking the honeymoon suite for your mistress. On your anniversary." The post was spreading fast. Newport thrives on gossip, and we had just given them a feast. By late afternoon, the phone calls began. Not from Robert, but from his allies. His business partner, Jason, left me a message. "Michelle, I don't know what's going on, but Robert's behavior is affecting the firm. He showed up this morning yelling about sabotage and clients overheard. If he doesn't get control of himself, he's done here." Then Robert's own mother called me. Not to defend him, but to apologize. "I don't know what my son was thinking. You've given him everything. Please don't punish Sophie for his sins." That one stung. I loved Sophie too much to ever use her as leverage, but it told me everything about how far Robert had already fallen. When your mother sides with your wife instead of you, the ground under your feet isn't just cracking. It's gone. By evening, Sabrina's mask began to slip. I got a text from her fiancé, well, ex-fiancé now, who had just found out about the affair. His words were brutal. "You two deserve each other. Don't ever contact me again." I imagined Sabrina reading that message, realizing the shiny new life she thought she was building with Robert wasn't so shiny anymore. And still, I stayed silent. No responses, no explanations. Silence was more powerful than any insult I could throw. Silence left them choking on their own desperation. That night, as I tucked Sophie into bed, she asked quietly, "Mom, is Daddy in trouble?" I brushed her hair back and kissed her forehead. "Daddy made some bad choices. But you and I are going to be okay. Better than okay." Her little arms wrapped around my neck. "I believe you." Those 3 words lit a fire in me stronger than any rage. This wasn't just about revenge. It was about showing my daughter what strength looked like. The next day, the desperation turned into action. At noon, as I was leaving Helena's office with divorce papers in progress, Robert was waiting outside. His eyes were bloodshot, his shirt wrinkled, his tie loose. He looked like a man who hadn't slept. "Michelle," he pleaded, stepping toward me. "Please, just give me a chance to explain." I stopped, holding my briefcase tight. "Explain what? The honeymoon suite? The robe? Or the fact that our daughter heard you planning it?" His mouth opened, then closed. For once, Robert had no script. He reached for me, but I stepped back. "Don't," I said firmly. "You lost that right." Everything is falling apart, he said, voice breaking. The money, the firm, Sabrina. She's not who I thought she was. But you, Michelle, we can fix this. We've built a life together. I stared at him, the man who once promised forever, now begging like a child who'd dropped his toy. And all I felt was clarity. You built a lie, I told him. And now you're living in it. I walked past him, the divorce papers clutched in my hand, my heels clicking against the pavement like punctuation marks. He didn't follow. For the first time in years, Robert was behind me, not in front. And that's exactly where he would stay. Robert had been trying for weeks, texts, calls, even showing up outside Sophie's school once, which earned him a restraining warning from Helena. But I knew it was only a matter of time before he tried something bigger, something desperate. It came one Friday night at Cielo Mare, the kind of oceanfront restaurant where every table is a performance stage and half the patrons know each other. I was there with my sister and two close friends, celebrating the signing of a new client for my event planning comeback. I wore a navy dress that hugged my body in all the right places, my hair down, makeup flawless. I wanted to be seen. Halfway through dinner, I felt the shift in the room before I saw him. Heads turned toward the entrance. Robert, in his tailored suit, wrinkled at the collar, eyes shadowed like he hadn't slept in days. And trailing behind him, clutching his arm like a trophy, was Sabrina. Of course. My friends went still. My sister whispered, "Don't let him rattle you." I smiled. He's about to rattle himself. Robert spotted me instantly and made his move, dragging Sabrina toward my table. Conversations died around us, forks clinking against plates as people pretended not to stare but leaned in closer. "Michelle," Robert said, his voice loud enough to carry. "We need to talk." I didn't stand. "We've already said everything that matters." Sabrina smirked, leaning against him. "She's just bitter, Robert. Everyone can see that." My friends bristled, but I raised a hand. "Bitter? No, Sabrina, I'm free. You, on the other hand," I let my eyes sweep the room, "are about to find out what happens when the mask slips." I pulled my phone from my purse and tapped the screen. The Bluetooth speakers in the restaurant weren't hard to access. I'd arranged this ahead of time. My friend across the table, an IT wizard, gave me a subtle nod. Robert frowned. "What are you doing?" Then the audio began. His voice filled the room, recordings I'd saved from months of him talking to Sabrina on speakerphone when he thought I wasn't listening. "Don't worry, babe. Michelle's clueless. She still thinks I'm faithful. Once I get my hands on the rest of her inheritance, we'll be set for life." Gasps rippled through the restaurant. Sabrina's face drained of color. I tapped again. "She gave up her career for me. Can you believe that? Some women just want to be useful. But you, Sabrina? You're my real partner." Laughter from the back tables. Not friendly laughter. Robert's face turned crimson. "Turn that off," he barked, reaching for my phone. I pulled it back, smiling coolly. "Funny, Robert. You never minded an audience before." Sabrina yanked her arm away from him, her voice shrill. "You told me you loved me. You said she was nothing but a burden." The crowd was eating it up. Phones were out, recording. This wasn't gossip anymore. It was evidence. Robert sputtered, looking between us, realizing he was cornered. "Michelle, you don't understand." I stood finally, pushing my chair back with deliberate calm. "No, Robert. I understand perfectly. I funded your career, your lifestyle, your whole image. And you repaid me by dragging my so-called best friend into the honeymoon suite on our anniversary." I leaned forward, close enough so only he could hear, then straightened and projected my voice so the entire restaurant caught the line. "You booked the honeymoon suite with her, Robert. I booked your one-way ticket out of this town." The place erupted. Gasps, claps, even a whistle from somewhere near the bar. Robert's jaw worked furiously, but no words came. Sabrina shoved him, furious. "You used me! You said she was over, that the money was yours." He reached for her, but she stormed off, heels clacking against the tile, leaving him stranded in the center of the room, alone. He turned back to me, eyes wild. "You'll regret this. You think people are on your side, but they'll get tired of your drama." I tilted my head. "Look around, Robert. They're already tired of you." Dozens of eyes burned into him. Phones still recording, flashes going off. He stood there, trembling, humiliated, the mask of Newport's golden boy shattered. Then he shoved through the crowd and stumbled out into the night, tripping on the step, laughter chasing him into the street. I sat back down, smoothed my napkin over my lap, and took a slow sip of wine. My sister's hand squeezed mine under the table. "Michelle," she whispered, her eyes gleaming. "That line is going to be everywhere by tomorrow morning." She was right. By sunrise, the clip was already viral. Newport didn't just know about Robert's betrayal, they knew about his downfall. And I had delivered it with a smile. I should have expected it. Men like Robert don't vanish quietly. They scramble, clawing for scraps of dignity. The restaurant humiliation had gone viral overnight. Clips of him sputtering while I delivered my line had been reposted across every Newport gossip account, captioned with hashtags like Huri Honeymoon Suite Scandal and Huri the One-Way Ticket Robert. By the following week, Robert tried to fight back. He booked himself on a local morning show, Newport Today, the kind of program that usually covered yacht parades and charity luncheons. But this time, their lead guest was my soon-to-be ex-husband in a pressed suit, with dark circles under his eyes and a forced smile. I didn't watch it live. My phone buzzed with links before I'd even finished breakfast. The first clip showed Robert leaning toward the host, voice heavy with practiced sincerity. "I made mistakes," he said, shaking his head. "But Michelle, she's exaggerating. She's been vindictive ever since I told her I was moving on. The truth is, our marriage was already over. She's weaponizing my personal life for attention." Weaponizing. That was the word he chose. He painted me as bitter, unstable, told the host I had serious control issues, even suggested I'd fabricated the audio clips from the restaurant confrontation. Sabrina wasn't with him on camera, but he dropped her name, calling her a supportive friend who's been unfairly targeted. I almost laughed. Supportive friend. That was one way to describe a woman lounging in my robe in a honeymoon suite. For a day, his little performance seemed to work. His die-hard buddies reposted it, saying, "See? Not everything is black and white." A few online commenters pitied him, talking about vengeful women and cancel culture. But Robert had always underestimated one thing: receipts. Because I had them, and not just the recordings. That evening, I dropped an email chain to a trusted blogger who covered Newport's high society scandals. Subject line, Robert Canning, receipts. The emails were Robert's own words to Sabrina, bragging about funneling my inheritance into shell accounts, laughing about me never noticing. In one, he'd even typed, "She's naive enough to think I'm building wealth for us. Truth is, I'm building it for me, and you, babe." Within hours, screenshots were circulating. The blogger's post exploded, reshared across Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. The hashtag shifted from "Daru One-Way Ticket Robert" to "Receipts Don't Lie." By morning, the narrative had flipped again. Comments piled in. "He stole her inheritance? That's financial abuse." "Not just cheating, he's a con artist." Imagine calling your wife vindictive while emails show you plotting against her. The backlash burned hotter than even I expected. Newport wasn't just mocking him anymore, they were disgusted. Sabrina tried to defend herself on Instagram, posting a filtered selfie captioned, "Don't believe everything you read. Love is complicated." The replies gutted her. Love? He stole from his wife. Girl, he booked a honeymoon suite on their anniversary. Complicated? No. Disgusting. Complicated is forgetting to text back. This is betrayal. By the end of the week, Sabrina's account was deactivated, but Robert kept trying. He released a rambling Facebook video in his car, eyes darting, voice cracking. "This has gotten out of control," he said. "Michelle's twisting the narrative to make me look like a monster." The truth is, she was never satisfied. She controlled every dollar, Every decision. Mid-sentence. His phone buzzed with a notification. He forgot to mute it. On screen, the text preview was visible. Sabrina. Stop dragging me down with you. The internet caught it immediately. Someone screen recorded, slowed it down, zoomed in. Within an hour, the clip was everywhere, captioned with "Chai dragged down" and gifs of sinking ships. Even his business partner, Jason, cut ties publicly. In a press release, Jason wrote, "The firm distances itself from Mr. Canning's personal and financial misconduct. Investors fled. Clients pulled contracts. My lawyer, Helena, called, chuckling for the first time since we'd started. Michelle, you don't even need to fight this PR war. He's destroying himself with every word." Still, I wasn't finished. On Saturday, I uploaded a single post to my Instagram. Not a rant, not even a caption. Just a picture of Sophie and me at the beach, her hand in mine, both of us smiling. The caption was one line: "We rise by telling the truth." It went viral. Not because it was scandalous, but because it was simple. People reposted it with messages like, "This is what strength looks like." Meanwhile, Robert's spiral deepened. Reporters stopped calling him for interviews. Neighbors crossed the street to avoid him. And the cruelest cut of all, his own father, the man who once bragged about Robert's business genius, issued a statement at a charity gala. "I am ashamed of my son's actions. He does not represent this family's values." Robert had tried to spin the story. He'd tried to paint me as vindictive, unstable, controlling. But receipts don't lie. Screenshots don't lie. Children don't lie. By the end of that week, Robert wasn't just a cheating husband. He was Newport's most public cautionary tale. And for the first time since the lobby of that resort, I felt like I could breathe without fire in my chest. Because Robert wasn't just exposed. He was finished. The morning of the first court hearing, I slipped into a navy blazer and simple pearl earrings. No theatrics, no flash, just calm authority. Robert, on the other hand, arrived with his tie crooked, his lawyer sweating beside him, and dark circles carved into his face. He looked smaller somehow, shrunken. Not the man who once commanded rooms with a smirk and a handshake. Helena, my attorney, didn't waste time. She filed a motion for full financial disclosure, and the receipts poured in. Every shell account Robert thought he'd hidden. Every dinner charged to my inheritance. Every business trip that doubled as a tryst with Sabrina. It wasn't just adultery. It was fraud. The judge wasn't amused. "Mr. Canning," she said, her voice sharp, "your financial behavior borders on criminal. Be thankful this is a divorce proceeding and not an indictment." Robert clenched his jaw, eyes darting to me like he could will me into silence. But I wasn't silent anymore. I sat tall, hands folded, while Helena dismantled him piece by piece. The house? Mine. I'd bought it with inheritance money that could be traced directly back to my accounts. The judge agreed. The cars? Gone to auction, proceeds deposited into a trust for Sophie. Custody? Full to me. Supervised visits for Robert after his emotional instability was highlighted in his own social media rants. His lawyer tried to spin me as vindictive, but the judge shook her head. "Mr. Canning, you're a public relations disaster of your own making. I won't risk placing a child in the center of it." When the gavel fell that afternoon, I had everything I came for. The house, custody, control of finances. Robert had nothing but his suit and the mounting debt he'd thought he could outrun. But the courtroom was just the beginning. Word spread fast in Newport circles. His father, usually stone-faced and proud, didn't bother hiding his fury. At a family gathering, one I didn't attend but heard plenty about, he stood up and announced, "My son is no longer welcome in this house. He has disgraced the Canning name, and he will receive no financial support moving forward." Robert's younger brother, who had always lived in his shadow, pulled his arm away when Robert tried to corner him afterward. "You're toxic," he said loud enough for the relatives to hear. "You nearly ruined this family's reputation. Don't call me again." Robert was radioactive now. The brother who once idolized him walked away. The father who bankrolled him cut the cord, and the so-called mistress who'd gloated in my silk robe was unraveling too. Sabrina's collapse came swift. Her fiancé had left her months earlier, and with Robert broke and unstable, she tried crawling back to her old life. But Newport is small. Word travels. Former friends avoided her at coffee shops, and whispers followed her at the gym. She posted once more on social media, some vague, tearful video about love being misunderstood, but the comments shredded her. By the next morning, her account was gone. Meanwhile, Robert's descent into isolation accelerated. His business partner formally dissolved their firm. Clients sued for negligence, citing his inability to manage contracts after the scandal. His phone number leaked, and prank calls flooded him. Even his landlord served him notice when he couldn't cover rent on the downtown condo he'd tried to cling to. I watched from a distance, not with pity, but with clarity. This was the man who had mocked me behind my back, siphoned my inheritance, and humiliated me publicly. Now, he was a pariah, stripped of the wealth, family, and allies he once flaunted. The final blow came quietly, like justice often does. A notice arrived in my mailbox. The court had approved wage garnishment from whatever scraps of freelance consulting Robert could still secure. Every dollar he earned above bare minimum living expenses would funnel directly into Sophie's trust. I poured myself a glass of wine that night and read the letter twice, letting the weight of it sink in. Robert wasn't just broke. He was working for me now. Every paycheck chained to the daughter he'd betrayed. When I tucked Sophie in, she asked me again, "Is Daddy going to be okay?" I brushed her hair back. "Daddy's choices have consequences, but you and I, we're more than okay." That weekend, I drove past his old haunts, places he once strutted like he owned them. The country club revoked his membership. His favorite bar had banned him after an outburst when his card declined. And outside a dingy extended-stay motel, I spotted him once, shoulders slumped, phone pressed to his ear as if he still had someone left to call. He didn't. Robert was homeless by Newport standards, stripped of his tailored suits and staged smiles. The man who once booked a honeymoon suite to flaunt his betrayal now lived in a room that smelled of mildew, his name synonymous with scandal. And I was free. The ruthless part of me wanted to deliver a final word, to knock on that motel door and watch him squirm. But the stronger part of me knew silence was louder. His punishment wasn't what I said. It was what I didn't have to say. Robert had destroyed himself. I had simply moved the pieces into place and let gravity do the rest. And when I closed the blinds that night, tucking Sophie in again with the ocean breeze drifting through our windows, I whispered the truth I'd come to believe with every bone in my body. He hadn't just lost me. He had lost everything. I didn't plan to see Robert again. After the court rulings, after the asset seizures, after his own family disowned him, there was nothing left to say. But men like Robert don't know how to vanish with dignity. They linger, circling like shadows that don't understand the light has already burned them out. It was a late Saturday afternoon when he showed up at my door. I saw him through the glass, hair unwashed, shirt wrinkled, eyes hollow. He looked like he hadn't slept in weeks. For a moment, I barely recognized him. I opened the door halfway, blocking the frame with my body. "What do you want?" He tried to smile, but his lips quivered. 5 minutes. "That's all I'm asking, Michelle. 5 minutes to explain myself." I let the silence hang until he shifted uncomfortably. Finally, I stepped outside, pulling the door shut behind me. Sophie didn't need to hear any of this. We stood on the porch, the ocean breeze rustling the trees. Robert shoved his hands into his pockets, eyes darting everywhere but mine. "I messed up," he started, his voice cracking. "I know that. I know I hurt you. I hurt Sophie. I destroyed everything good in my life. But Michelle, I didn't mean for it to go this far." I folded my arms. "You didn't mean to empty my inheritance? You didn't mean to parade Sabrina in front of me? You didn't mean to lie, over and over, until there was nothing left of the truth?" His head dropped. "I was stupid. I thought I was invincible. I thought you'd always be there to catch me. But look at me now. I did look at him. And what I saw wasn't the polished man I once married. It was a hollow shell, stripped of arrogance, stripped of charm. His tie was gone, his shoes scuffed, his shoulders slumped. He looked like a man begging the world to remember him. "I've lost everything," he whispered. "My business, my family, my reputation. I don't even have Sabrina anymore. She left me the second things got hard. And now," he trailed off, voice breaking. "Now I have no one. Except you. Please, Michelle. I need you." The irony was almost laughable. After years of being dismissed, silenced, gaslit, here he was, begging for the very stability he had torched. "You don't need me," I said coldly. "You need accountability. And that's something I won't give you by staying." His eyes filled, tears clinging to the edges. "Don't say that. Don't throw me away like this. We can rebuild. I'll change. I'll do whatever you want. Just, please." He reached out, but I stepped back. The movement made his face crumple like a child denied. "You had years to change," I told him. "Years of opportunities to be honest, to be faithful, to be a man Sophie could look up to. You wasted them all. You built your entire life on betrayal. And now you're standing in the rubble, asking me to rebuild the house you burned down." The porch was quiet except for the waves crashing in the distance. He sank onto the step, burying his face in his hands. For the first time, I didn't feel anger. I didn't feel pity either. What I felt was clarity. "Michelle," he said hoarsely, lifting his head. "I don't want to die alone." I crouched down just enough so he'd have to look at me. "Then you shouldn't have lived like a man who deserved it." He flinched, the words hitting harder than the slap in the hotel lobby ever had. I stood, smoothing my blazer, my voice steady as glass. "You always thought you were the architect of our life, Robert, but you were really just the architect of your own destruction." He blinked, stunned, as though he finally heard the truth carved out in stone. I turned, opened the door, and stepped back inside, closing it firmly behind me. Through the glass, I saw him sitting there for a long time, staring at the ground. Eventually, he got up and walked down the driveway, shoulders hunched, swallowed by the fading light. That was the last time I ever saw him. 2 years can change everything. Sophie is taller now, her laughter brighter, her confidence blooming in ways I used to dream for her. Last week, she won her school's debate competition. She stood at the podium, steady as stone, arguing about justice and fairness with a fire in her eyes that reminded me of myself, of the woman I finally let surface when everything fell apart. As for me, I rebuilt. Piece by piece, brick by brick, I took back the life I had sacrificed. My event planning business is thriving again. Clients line up months in advance, drawn by the story of the woman who turned betrayal into reinvention. I don't advertise that part, but people whisper it. And whispers, I've learned, can be powerful currency. Our house feels different now. Lighter. The air no longer heavy with secrets or lies. I painted Sophie's room in her favorite shade of teal, and in the living room hangs a framed photograph of the two of us at the beach, wind in our hair, freedom in our smiles. This is what home feels like: safety, truth, and love without conditions. Every so often, I still hear murmurs about Robert. Newport is small, and his name still drifts through conversations like a ghost. He bounces from odd job to odd job, couch surfing when motels become too expensive. His father keeps the door closed. His brother doesn't return his calls. Even Sabrina vanished, marrying someone else far away, her name only mentioned now with a roll of the eyes. But Robert? He's no longer a player in my story. He's background noise, static fading into silence. And that's exactly what he deserves. One evening, Sophie asked me, "Mom, do you ever think about what happened?" I paused, then smiled gently. I think about how strong it made us, how it showed us we don't need anyone who betrays us. And how freedom is better than any fairy tale we thought we had. She nodded, satisfied, and went back to her homework. Children don't need long explanations. They just need truth, steady and simple. Sometimes, late at night, I stand on the balcony and let the ocean breeze wash over me. I remember the woman who walked out of that hotel lobby, heart shattered, pride bleeding. She didn't know yet that her pain was a doorway. That humiliation was only the spark that would set fire to a stronger life. Now, I do. Robert thought betrayal would break me. Instead, it rebuilt me. And as the waves crash against the shore below, I whisper the words that close this chapter forever. Betrayal didn't imprison me. It freed me. Thank you so much for watching this story. If it resonated with you, or if you've ever faced betrayal and found your own strength on the other side, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Your experiences matter, and sharing them can inspire someone else who's going through the same pain. Don't forget to hit that like button if this story moved you, and make sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next one. Until then, stay strong, stay true, and always choose freedom over betrayal.